Hey guys. So I wait, just checking a couple things real quick. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. For those of you who know, I'm part of the Countdown City WrestleCast, and we were trying to talk about this on yesterday, not yesterday. Well, because I'm shooting this right after midnight on Friday, so we tried to talk about this recently, and my Discord on both my app on my iPad and on my desktop just would not cooperate. I don't know why. Hopefully, we're gonna get that fixed. But I have my own thoughts, quite a few, in fact, on the recent releases from WWE. Not just the ones the other day, but just in general for the past year. For the past, yeah. Let's just call spade a spade. The past year since the pandemic started. Let me start with a quote that I read on Facebook or YouTube, or might even been Twitter. It said, "No one hates pro wrestling more than wrestling fans." I'm depressed at how true that is. I'm depressed at how accurate that statement is. I'm depressed at how woefully factual that is. Let's just close this up over here. Um, one of my plastic bottles just popped. Um, I have this shirt. Ironically enough, I think this was Ricochet's shirt after his match with Will Ospreay, when everyone was criticizing the match him and Ospreay had in New Japan for the Best of the Super Juniors tournament. I can't remember which year. 2014, maybe 2015. It's one of those years. Um, Wrestling is an art. However, whether people view it as a sport, as entertainment, as whichever one, it's still an art regardless to me. To me. And by art, I mean you got the high flyers like Ricochet. You have the heavy hitters like guys like Miro, Lance Archer. The heavy bruisers. You got the technical guys like Daniel Bryan, Zack Sabre Jr. You have the consummate showman. Guys like Toru Yano's a consummate showman. He's one. And you have the guys who can do it all. Kazuchika Okada, Randy Orton, Kenny Omega are the guys who I think can do all the above. They're the consummate professionals. They can do all that. Who's the best is not the point of this talk. The reason I'm bringing all that up is because while I do think wrestling fans hate wrestling the most, I'm starting to believe Vince McMahon and WWE hate wrestling the most. Now, don't get me wrong. This is just the opinion of a guy on the internet. You may take this opinion or leave it. You may stop watching this video at any time. You may completely ignore what I'm going to say. You can agree, you can disagree. My feelings will not be hurt either way because no one's paying me for this. No one is making me say this. No one even asked me to say this. I felt like talking about it. So, in feeling like talking about it, if you feel free to disagree with me, feel free to say I'm wrong. Feel free to, do whatever with what I'm saying. Agree, disagree, turn off the video, watch the whole thing, up to you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to give you my opinion. And the reason I'm giving my opinion is because this is something that I legitimately love. For those of you who don't know, my relationship with pro wrestling has been a tricky one. I loved it as a kid. When my aunt died, I stopped watching for the longest time until I got back into it in high school when some friends of mine talked me into it. And I've been watching ever since. Went to my first indie show in 2005, and I've been going to indie shows ever since then. So I have a lot of love for pro wrestling. It's gotten me a lot of like lifelong friends, lifelong experiences, memories I'll never forget. And it just seems like if it wasn't for other wrestling companies, news like this would kill my love of pro wrestling. Letting go of people like Samoa Joe, the Iconics, Aleister Black, that hurts on a series of levels. But unfortunately, with the history of Vince McMahon's booking and his ego, I kind of get it. Samoa Joe came in with a name. The Iconics kind of were given nothing to do until they made themselves popular. And I'm 100% convinced that Vince cannot stand it when wrestlers make themselves popular that he had nothing to do with. Look at what happened with Rusev, aka Miro, and Aleister Black. Despite doing everything they said, even though they had nothing for him, which is bull, still made himself popular, made himself a guy who was worthy of attention. The name that hurts the most, because it makes, to me, the least sense out of all of them, and I'm going to explain why, is Braun Strowman. And for some of you are probably going to understand what I mean when I say that. Why this makes the least amount of sense that Braun Strowman got released. And those of you who understand it, because like me, you understand how Vince works. Vince brought up Braun Strowman. This was the giant monster he has been asking for decades. I'm convinced this is the same. This is the giant monster he's been wanting since Andre the Giant back in the 80s. He finally got one. He built, and you know what? Props to WWE, props to the system, props to Vince. Braun Strowman went from just the muscle for the Wyatt family to a legitimate superstar. Good talker, good, charismatic, dangerous, big, and he was one of the heavy hitters I talked about. And I love watching Braun Strowman matches. I'm a huge Braun Strowman fan. Excuse me, I'm a fan. And that is why, of all of them, this is the most shocking. Ruby Riott, a.k.a. Heidi Lovelace, is another shocking one because, like many, she wasn't given much to do, so you couldn't see the full range of how good she was. And here is where the biggest problem is. The line in wrestling of creative has nothing for you, which is primarily almost a WWE strictly used line, not really so much for Ring of Honor, Impact, or AEW, but that can apply there too. I'm not saying that they wouldn't have that same line because sometimes it just doesn't work out. And for other companies where it doesn't work out, I will say this: places like Impact, ROH, AEW have their own specific style. The same kind of way places in Japan do, like New Japan, All Japan, and Pro Wrestling Noah, I think have their own style, while like places like DDT and Big Japan have their own style. It's all different. Some people just don't fit in everywhere. And that's fine. That's fine if some people don't fit in some places, but, if you give them a shot and it doesn't work out, that's fine. People who were released the other day were given a shot and weren't given a shot and still got released. And I know what some of you are saying, but that they gave a legitimate reason, and I cannot use bigger air quotes if I tried on that one, and I'll discuss that too in a second. What is the formula right now? Before, actually, the WWE formula for success was actually pretty obvious. If you sold, you stayed. I'm more than positive Vince did not give a damn, one way or the other about the New Day. He couldn't have cared less about Kofi Kingston. He couldn't have cared less about Big E. He couldn't have cared less about Xavier Woods. The only reason those three guys are still there is because they sold. I don't care who thinks I'm wrong about that. That is my opinion. And even if Vince himself told me that's not the reason, I wouldn't believe him. He could be standing in my face and say that's not the reason I kept them around, and I wouldn't believe him. I would not. Because I don't believe that he even cares that they're even still there as long as they're selling. Well, now he can't get rid of them because that would just be too blatantly obvious, and God knows what kind of backlash he'd get from that. You had a guy like Braun Strowman did everything asked of him, did all the right things, and budget cut. You had Aleister Black, who you did nothing with. Then you start to do something with, and instead of following through with that, i.e. what John Moxley said in an interview recently, they can make new stars if they follow through with the pushes, and then, you cut them off. You had the Riot Squad of Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, and Sarah Logan, a legitimate faction that formed because they worked together, and that could have been one of the. They could have been the shield of the women's division, and I will forever stand. But they could have been the shield of the women's division, and you did nothing with them. You released Sarah Logan first. You tried to repackage Liv Morgan into this femme fatale gimmick, which God knows Vince has tried to do 100 times. Let it go, dude. And then when that didn't work, he put it right back in the Riot Squad, and then released Riot for no reason because creative had nothing for them. I have always been critical of the booking around Brock Lesnar and Goldberg. I used to be critical of Brock Lesnar, but I've changed my stance because I got to stop saying that. Because let me be perfectly honest with y'all. It is not Brock Lesnar's fault. It is not Goldberg's fault that they are getting paid. Okay? I'm sorry to whoever diehard indie / AEW / Impact / pure pro wrestling fans that offends. But hey, they sell. I'm not even going to sit here in front like they don't sell. Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, they sell. So them getting their check, hey, you two guys, congratulations. Get your money because, it's hard out there. So get your money. Congratulations on your success. My problem is not with these two men anymore because I've realized it's not their fault that they're booked how they're booked. My problem is with this booking. You put so much effort in putting all this time and attention on Brock Lesnar, on Goldberg. What about everybody else? Now, I'm not saying you can't have attention on Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. By all means, give them some spotlight. But for the days that they're not there, which is most of the time, you have other people you can build up. To go back to one of the earlier releases, which was Samoa Joe, the rumor was he was still injured. Okay, fine. He was still injured. He was killer on commentary. He was great. He was fantastic. And that's even another thing. They released Tom Phillips. Tom Phillips? I could not fathom he made that much to where his check was cutting into the WWE's bottom line. I cannot fathom Tom Phillips was demanding more money because of the mass amounts of airtime he gets. Because the camera is 100% on him at all times. But Tom Phillips gets released. For those of you who don't know, last year, during the pandemic, when wrestling was fighting to survive, not just in the United States, but the entire world, and thank God it did. Thank God for... You know what? I'll be honest. Thank God for WWE at this point because of people like Bayley, Sasha Banks, Drew McIntyre, the Hurt Business. They were keeping those doors open as well. So thank God for WWE at this time. Thank God for AEW, who were finding whatever avenues they could to work their shows in. Thank God for Impact and Ring of Honor putting on those little shows as best they could. Thank God for Pro Wrestling Noah and New Japan having empty arena shows or partial arena shows. Thank God Pro Wrestling survived the quarantine, pandemic, COVID-19 era. Thank God it lived through it. But during this era, where other companies were scratching and clawing to survive, to stay on TV, to keep their people employed, to keep them fed, where guys couldn't travel and the guys and girls couldn't travel, couldn't make their money, couldn't do indie shows to make extra money, could only survive by selling their 8x10s, t-shirts, having to start their Twitch pages, OnlyFans, whatever, and not even like a naughty OnlyFans, just a regular OnlyFans where they could converse with it like Patreons, all that kind of stuff. During this era, where guys like Jack Evans said, I'm never going to talk bad about Tony Khan because when I couldn't leave Mexico to come to AEW to fulfill my contract, this man still paid me. When that was happening in AEW, WWE had the best financial year of its existence, or maybe not of its entire existence, but close to it. Why? Because they ran no indie shows. Then what happens? They get this huge, huge deal with the Peacock streaming service for even shutting down WWE Network. So technically, they don't have to even run that anymore because now that's Peacock's deal. And during all this, all that money that they had coming in, no having to travel, no having to pack up trucks and put up, and rent out arenas, rent this out, drive up and down, pay for gas, pay for repairs on trucks, pay for people to set up arenas, pay for people to take down arenas, to make sure to cover the insurance of the building, all that kind of stuff, pyro, all that. They didn't have to pay for any of that, and yet and still, with that and $5 billion extra dollars coming their way, you can't pay the people who stuck it with you through this crap? Are you kidding me right now? Let me go back to my prime example, Braun Strowman. Matter of fact, if those of you who can see my calendar, yes, Braun Strowman is my calendar. Braun Strowman is my calendar. I didn't turn this over to the day after June 1st because I forgot to do it on June 1st. And the first thing I saw was Braun Strowman. This was the day that was announced that he got released, June 2nd. A guy who did everything that was asked of him. I remember Braun Strowman debuted. Big dude, crazy hair, and he looked a little overweight. I'm not going to lie to you, but he looked like a scary, intimidating monster. What were the rumors backstage? Oh, he's overweight. He can't talk. He can't really go in the ring. He doesn't know what he's doing. These were all the complaints that I heard about this man. What did he do over the years? He slimmed down. Looked as toned and as buff as he could. He got better on the mic. I love a good Braun Strowman promo, man. Those were either funny or scary to me. He was working on his ring work. Looked great. He learned how to take hits, learned how to do all that. Trimmed his hair up, then shaved it entirely. Went bald, had the full beard, looked like a full-on mountain man and everything. And his reward for doing everything asked of him was being released. The reward for the Iconics for getting themselves over, being entertaining, making the fans love and or hate them and or laugh at them, which they could do all three in a minute's time, was being split up because they had something different for Peyton Royce and then did nothing and released both of them. They released Lana too as well, but let's be honest, when Miro was gone, Rusev was gone, we all saw that one the writing was kind of on the wall for that one. But the messed up part was she was working on, just being herself, entertaining, had this fun team with Naomi, and then all this happens. I honestly don't get this. I really don't understand the point of any of this. I don't understand the mindset because, first of all, when you have no competition and you pull this kind of crap, hey, that just kind of sucks. There's competition now. And yeah, to all the people who are watching this, because I know there are people who are going to watch this and just be like, well, WWE is the biggest company. And yes, you're right. And aside from maybe AEW, the other companies do not have money like WWE does. This is true. This is absolutely true. Not everyone who works in pro wrestling is going to be a millionaire. This is a fact. This is a hard fact of life. But does that make it right for WWE to treat their talent like crap? And that's what this is. You can try to spin it however you want. You can try to say it however you want. Doesn't make it any less true what I just said. And I know the wrestlers who have been released. They're putting out very, very nice things to say about their time in WWE and that and all that. And good for them. Good for them. I'm happy that they're seeing the silver lining in this dark cloud. I am not at all trying to say that they should hate Vince, be mad and like that. I'm not talking from their perspective because I don't know what their lives are like right now. And if they are happy and if they find happiness and stability and whatever they do next, God bless them, God keep them, God be with them. I will pray for all their successes and going forward. I pray that they find some peace and some happiness with whatever they do next. I pray that they make it out of this just fine. Just fine. I really do. But from the human part of me, this, quite frankly, pisses me the hell off. Because it's utter, complete, and no GMO, grade A bullshit. And quite frankly, WWE and Vince McMahon should be ashamed of themselves that this is happening. Because there's no reason for it. Budget cuts. While they're also trying to snap up every piece of talent they can to keep them from going to AEW, Impact, New Japan, Ring of Honor, insert company that's even kind of on the rise here. And this is not even to say that, like I said, this is not to say that the people would make millions of dollars in those other companies. Right now, there's no guarantee they're going to make millions of dollars in WWE either, though. That's the problem. The argument is, well, they won't get paid as much somewhere else. Well, if they can keep you treated like this in WWE, they won't get paid at all either. Because, again, if you can make it as a success in WWE, more power to you. Good for you. By all means, get your money. But where is the stability? Where is the, I won't say guarantee because there's no guarantees in life, but where's the reward for loyalty here? I remember being so excited when Samoa Joe got signed, but it was mostly because he got signed to NXT. He was a legit Samoa Joe of old there, and I loved it. So few guys from NXT who make it up actually have, done well. I mean, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are two I can think of. There are a few more. Baron Corbin hasn't done too bad. Shinsuke Nakamura, Cesaro, they're hanging in there. But you never know, man, because one of the questions posed on the WrestleCast when we recorded, even though I couldn't really comment much, was who could be next on the chopping block. And honestly, man, I don't have an answer because if Braun Strowman can go, fam, anybody can go. If they can get rid of the guy that they actually did build, pretty much built an entire, I don't want to say, well, yeah, they booked everything around him. They booked so much around him, around his rise, his character, about all that stuff. And if he can go, there are no guarantees of my question is who's safe? The only one I can think who's safe right now, who's 100% safe and ain't going nowhere, is Roman Reigns. He is literally the only name I can think of who's safe. I can't think of anyone else who could possibly be safe other than him. And the fact that he's the only name I can think of who's safe, that's the bullshit. I'm gonna put a warning on this just so everyone knows there's strong language in it. I really can't with WWE anymore. I mean, I'm not gonna be one of the people who say I'm never watching it again and just swear it off, but because I'm not that confident that I'll do it, first of all, and I don't want to be a hypocrite about that. But I do think I'm gonna take a break from watching it for a while, because I'm just not interested anymore. Right now. Right now. I'll say right now. Because I could get back into it later. There are other companies that I quite frankly want to give my attention to. New Japan Dominion is coming up. I don't have the network anymore. I think maybe I'll log in and get Stardom World or Cyber Fights app and watch DDT and Pro Wrestling Noah. They've got a huge show coming up. I think they just had a pretty big show. Got to do a Japan update soon. I'm wildly disappointed, which is the best way I can put it, in WWE. Disappointed and angry because this should not be the case. This should not be the case. If you're going to release people, it should be people who you have absolutely no plans for whatsoever, if it has to happen. Because, like I said earlier, I get it. Sometimes some careers just don't work out in some companies. It just doesn't work. There are examples. There are examples all across the board. People who didn't work in one company and worked somewhere else. Lance Archer is a great example because when he was in WWE and the ECW brand, he didn't really work out as well. He worked great in TNA when he first debuted as Dallas. He did pretty good to me with the Rocket Raven faction. I did enjoy that. I absolutely loved his run in New Japan as part of the Killer Elite Squad in Suzuki-gun, and I love what he's doing now in AEW. That's a case of a guy who was one place and didn't work out, and he went somewhere else and it worked fine. This is the case in wrestling. One of the biggest success stories was Raven when he was, the Johnny Polo back in the day, but then he dropped that gimmick altogether and changed his look completely and became something else. It worked out, and it worked out in ECW where that kind of attitude and look was really, really welcome, and he could really grow there. So I'm not saying that all these releases is immediately a bad thing and they'll never land on their feet somewhere. They can land on their feet just fine. I have no problem believing Aleister Black, who will more likely go back to his old name of Tommy End, and Heidi and Ruby Riott, who is Heidi Lovelace, will be fine. We'll go right back to the indie circuit and be fine. Will Braun Strowman end up in AEW or New Japan? Will any of them end up in AEW, New Japan, or Impact? I don't know. And I can only speculate. That's all I can do. I can't say for sure. Like I said, props to them. I hope they are all successful. And of course, I did leave out one name, Murphy, aka Buddy Murphy, who even before the pandemic proved himself to be just a guy who could go in the ring. And then, they put him in some high profile feuds and then just let him fizzle out without doing anything with the momentum that he gained. My biggest disappointment with this is because whereas with places like AEW, where you have guys who are new to booking making these kinds of mistakes, they're new to booking. When AEW maybe drops the ball with something, hey, they're not even 3 years old yet. Okay, it happens. When places like Impact or Ring of Honor drops the ball with someone, hey, something could have happened. Either, decisions changed, maybe someone's attitude was bad, something happened, blah, 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 what have you. It happens. Vince McMahon has been doing this for a very long time. So there should be no excuse for this cockamamie, self-righteous, self-indulgent, ridiculous redundancy of stupid booking decisions. Because and frankly, even if all this is so they can sell WWE, I don't get where releasing these people helps that at all. I don't get it. I don't understand what that does. Maybe if someone can explain the financial part of that to me and break that down for me, maybe then it'll make sense. But as of now, I don't get it. Maybe I'm just ignorant of how that works. And if someone can explain it to me, great. let me know how it works. Make a video, tag me in it or something. Shoot me a something in the comments. Let me know. I really don't know what else to say. This isn't as curse word laden heavy as I thought it was gonna be. Probably because I've calmed down a bit since yesterday. But it is upsetting. I love AEW. I love New Japan. I love WWE. I don't want them to close their doors. I don't want them to fail as a company, because when one wrestling company succeeds, I firmly believe that they all can. Because if one can make it, any of them can make it. WWE was an example of a company that made it. I don't know what's been going on this past year, especially. And it is hard to watch. It's hard to stay a fan of them. That's why I'm kind of tuning out of it, really. I'm still happy. Like some people said, hey, they pay well. Hey, I'm happy people that are there are getting paid well. I hope they're getting paid super well for what they have to put up with. Because, apparently it can end tomorrow. So I don't know. I hope and pray things will get better. Wrestling survived the pandemic. It'll survive this. I'm confident of that. It's WWE that I'm worried about. I just don't get this. I really don't. I don't get where you have people who are loyal, have people who are doing the job, and you fail them like that. And to me, that's the biggest issue, is WWE has failed these people they've released. Not just the on-air talent, but the backstage talent and, corp people and everything like that. If they're making all this money and they think a lot of people aren't needed when they probably are, I mean, that's the corporate world for you. It really is. It's just heartbreaking. It just really is heartbreaking. It's really, really depressing. And like I said, it makes it hard to watch. WWE is supposed to be in San Antonio in August, I think, for Raw. I already wasn't really planning to go, and now, yeah, I have no real interest anymore. Well, at least I always have the old, Austin and Rock promos. That's something, I guess. WWE, you guys disappoint me, man. You guys disappoint me big time. And damn, I just don't know if I'm really interested. I'm not saying they can't come back from this, but I don't know if I'm interested if they do or not. I don't know if I care if they do or not. I really just don't know. Man, next time we do WrestleCast, and then the next time we have to talk about WWE pay-per-view, I might just, refrain from picking ever again. I'm not, I don't want to say that, because let me take that back, because like I said, my opinion could change later. But maybe whenever the next pay-per-view is, I'll just be like, pass. I just don't care. But I don't know. Maybe something will happen. Tomorrow's another day, and I've seen situations change in a day. I've seen them change in an hour. So we'll see. Just, WWE, this is disappointing. This is very disappointing. See you guys soon.